Seth Forwood, Vice President of Programs for Fort Collins Rescue Mission and Harvest Farm in northern Colorado again. I'm joined now with Kevin Monson, who is an employee at Fort Collins Rescue Mission and has an amazing story that precedes his time of employment with us. So thanks for joining me, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me just ask you a question. What brought you to Fort Collins Rescue Mission in the first place?
Homelessness.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yep. I landed homeless. So I've been in and out of homeless for quite a long time, a lot of breaks and homelessness and stuff like that. But it's been a real struggle. And I landed in the shelter in 2022. And, I came into the program, it gave me more stability out of the streets. I was actually in a treatment program, which, recommended the shelter to me.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I was in the emergency services for 11 days. And then I'll never forget the gentleman that offered me the reserve bed. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing about your time in homelessness that you think most people don't really recognize?
Homelessness is, my concerns were, I wanted to work, I wanted, to have that stability and, get out of the streets.
Yeah.
And something kept pressing me to get out of the streets. But while being homeless, it was, where am I going to sleep at? What am I going to get to eat? How am I going to get some food? And that was the basic needs of the basic needs.
Yeah. And feeling kind of vulnerable, not having the answers to those questions. Can leave you a little uncertain.
Right? Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, man. It's, it's not the safest place, out there, and, you can find a place, to rest, but, it's like, man, I don't know, with the wild animals, or even like spiders or something crawling on you or something,
Right.
I don't know. And then the elements of the streets, there's quite an element out here, and it's like the drinking, and the drugs and stuff, and, sure, that stuff might help, alleviate the pressures or the stresses, but at the same time, it takes you off your toes, and it can be a little frightening out there. Yeah.
So you stabilized, you got your recovery going, you came to Fort Collins Rescue Mission, and tell me about what happened after you started to integrate into Fort Collins Rescue Mission and get stabilized.
Yeah. So the program was great, man. They offered Bible studies, and I could say Jesus kind of brought me in, and I know He's always been there with me going through it, but I think, I don't know if it's Christian people that He works through that bring us into it, but I know He's there, and they just offered a tremendous amount of Bible studies, man. I had like one-on-ones with pastors.
Oh, nice.
And those were the greatest times. I had a ton of questions, and I was able to ask those questions to the Bible studies that it offered, and it brought me in to a more stability and gave me hope. That I do have a future. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. It was great, man. So the reserve bed option, I got a bed, and it was a permanent bed.
What does that mean to have a permanent bed?
Yeah, so a permanent bed. So it starts out, you go into emergency services, and it's just a night-by-night basis. You got to carry your stuff out with you, and you do get a meal, but you got to vacate the shelter during the day. And then with the reserve bed, you come in. You get a bed, you get a locker, you get a foot locker, you get access to showers, you get access to laundry, and it's just a way more stable environment. And, the process, working in the emergency services, like I get to work with the guys now, and I kind of know, like, doing the emergency services, I mean, your basic, let's worry about a job. Let's get you in a reserve bed and worry about a job later, because a lot of them are like, man, I need to work, and it's like, well, but I can tell them their best option, you want to get a job during the day, because, while you're out of the shelter, because, just the way the shelter's kind of designed
Yep.
to bring stability into somebody's life and hope, for sure.
Yep. Nice.
Yep.
Well, and then after getting that stabilization at Fort Collins Rescue Mission, you ended up on staff. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, so the way that works is like, I landed a housing gig after 10 months of being in a reserve bed, right? And
Gotcha.
I got into a federally ran program, and then, so the way the policy works is after a year, you can come back and volunteer or work or, that kind of stuff. And, and it was just in my heart, the shelter had, helped me tremendously in my journey that I wanted to give back. So I signed up for a 2-hour kitchen shift, which was really easy. I just went in and, signed up, cut some carrots and cabbage, and a gentleman that actually helped me through the way, can I mention him?
No.
Is it his name?
No.
Don't mention the name?
Oh, no, you can.
Can I mention his
go
name?
ahead.
Yeah, okay, so Steven came into the kitchen and was like, Kevin, we have an open position. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, man, why don't you apply? So I applied. 2 days later, I had an interview. A week later, I started work.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep. And it was part-time, kind of moving in the right direction, but opportunities opened up, as I kind of, committed, to the work there.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like you were kind of surprised by, having that opportunity and feeling like you fit that opportunity.
Well, yeah.
Is that right?
Well, yeah, I think the Lord, it was kind of the Lord's plan, because I wanted to work, of course, and all that good stuff, but I applied for jobs and they're like, no, this probably isn't the job for you, and I didn't quite understand it while I was interviewing with these jobs. But then when I came to the mission and they're like, yeah, we have a position, I knew that was the position that the Lord kind of was, steering me towards.
You had all these closed doors, and the one open door for you was right back at the mission, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, as we wrap up, what's your favorite part about working at the mission and being able to do what you do?
Well, my favorite part is, the ministry-based, I get to work with people who, believe in Jesus, and, that's just a tremendous blessing. We might have a little bit different views, but in all, we all believe in Jesus, know. And, that's the tremendous part. And then another one is seeing the guys, go through kind of what I went through, come into the shelter, and that hope, that, maybe this is the end of homelessness for me. So, yeah. Yep.
Is it seeing that spark in their eyes?
Yeah,
of like,
man, it's a light, and a lot of the, and I see different guys, a lot of guys, they're not ready for it, but they're coming in, we still give them a place to sleep and, food, but, the guy that, the Lord's, beginning to work in their lives, and it's just, it's just that hope that kind of sparks in them that, okay, I can do this, I can get out of homelessness, and I get to be part of that. So
yeah, that's right. And you just cannot overestimate how important it is for some of those guys to look up at a staff member and think, oh, he was in this place where I am right now.
Yeah.
And that can be a very hope-filled situation because it says that people get out of those traps, right?
Yeah.
People can escape the darkness of homelessness and addiction and live a full life. And I think it's a huge value to us at Fort Collins Rescue Mission that you present that hope.
Well, thank you.
For people.
I appreciate the opportunity, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Well, we love having you on staff, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yep.